Okay, cool. I'm thinking we should start on time only because we have a lot of slides. So yeah, you can just get ready. I think you're right after. I'll do the introduction and then cool. I think we're just waiting on CJ. Okay. Perfect. There we go. All right, everyone. I think we can try and get started soon. Yeah, we have a lot of slides for you. So hopefully we want to start on time because we want to get moving through it quickly. And yeah, a little background about this series of workshops. When I joined SEC, I went to one called Am I Doing This Right? And then they had another workshop called like Resume Workshop. So we've kind of combined them into two. Or we've combined the two into one. So the Am I Doing This Right workshop was basically 4-year plan. Like, how have the other previous successful computer science students done their college career? The resume one is pretty straightforward, but we've combined it into one so you guys can get a lot of value out of this. And we'll share the slides after so you guys can you can reference these after. And then these are the internships that we've been able to land. And yeah, we'll just jump right into it. So I'll hand it over to our tech officer, Nathan. I'll give a quick agenda. So these are the three things we're going to talk about. First is like, what is the process of applying for an internship? 2 is that year breakdown that I'm talking about, and then 3 is the resume
prep. All right, guys, what's up? Like Philip introduced me, I'm Nathan. I'm a tech officer here in the club. This recent summer, I interned at Lockheed Martin. So hopefully I can help break down the internship application / interview process. So I'm sure everyone in here knows that getting an internship isn't easy, or else everyone would have one. But it definitely is worth it. As I'm sure everyone in here, or not everyone, but most people in here is probably computer science, computer engineering, data science, somewhere in that computer field. And so getting an internship isn't easy, but it's definitely rewarding. And here we can see on this link that Philip opens, we can see active internships and sorted by pay. And you can definitely see these are some pretty well paying opportunities. Stuff at the top tends to be like financial quant roles, but there's software engineering roles throughout this list. And yeah, I mean, that kind of shows you what you're aiming for. So in the interview process, we can kind of break it down into 4 kind of steps. Definitely depends on what company you're talking to, but in general, it can be summarized in technical online assessment, behavioral interview, a follow-up technical interview that's normally done through like video conferencing, Skype, Zoom, WebEx, whatever they choose. And then hopefully at the end of the process, you can get an offer letter. So starting off with technical online assessment, how many people here know what LeetCode is? Okay, so that's a good start. For those who don't, definitely recommend looking up LeetCode, getting some practice in. But LeetCode is very similar to the kind of problems they ask you on the technical online assessments. They basically give you 2 or 3 or like a series of problems to solve in a specified time frame. And you have to kind of meet the requirements of that problem, basically outlined. For those who have taken data structures, that's a super helpful course in solving this. For those who haven't, you're not in a bad spot, but definitely look into like learning some of that stuff on your free time until you take the actual course. That's definitely going to help you tremendously. in taking these online assessments. Yeah. So next, after a technical online assessment, hopefully the company reaches out to you and offers you a behavioral interview. And this, in my opinion, is one of the more fun parts of the interview process because you got to actually talk to a recruiter. You got to show like soft skills, communication type skills that aren't really able to be shown when you're taking an online assessment. So like you can get to know more about the company culture, more about the role, more about just specifics in terms of the company. Yeah. So hopefully your behavioral interview goes well. You make a good impression. Then it'll be moved into a technical interview. And this is kind of like I mentioned earlier, you're going to basically be doing a similar problem to the online assessment in terms of just like a data structures type problem, or maybe more of like a industry focused problem, but you'll be doing it over a video call. Typically nowadays it's over a video call. But you'll be like explaining your thought process. You'll be explaining like how you work through the problem to get to your desired solution. One good thing that I know these interviewers like is when you're like engaged and ask for clarification when necessary on the question. Like if you're asking for like an edge case, say you have a problem dealing with a binary tree and you're like, can the given root be null? And that's one example, but there's more edge cases and ways that you can impress your technical interviewer. Yeah, and hopefully everything goes well. You get an offer letter. Normally when you get an offer letter, there's like a 1 to 2 week time window that you have to make a decision. If you get multiple offers, you're in a better spot than most, and you can like kind of leverage that. Say you have an open offer letter from one company and you're waiting to hear back from another company, you can ask for an extension on your existing offer letter. So that's definitely beneficial to do if you are in kind of that scenario. But yeah, and here I'll hand it over to CJ to kind of give a year by year breakdown of what is, I guess, the optimal kind of computer science pipeline.
Hey guys, as Nathan introduced me, I'm CJ. Also a tech officer at Software Engineering Club. And here we have like a 4-year breakdown to help give you guys some like tips and some like kind of like action steps you guys can do to work towards getting an internship or getting interviews. So just out of curiosity, how many of you guys are freshmen? Okay, all right, that's a good number. So freshman year, I recommend actually, can you go to the next slide? We have like the details, right? Yeah, all right, sweet. So freshman year, we recommend just like trying to get involved in campus, starting to build your network, joining clubs. Great first step. You guys are already here, so that's awesome. There's mentorship programs at different clubs. I know the AI club has one. I know others do as well. I don't think we have one right now, but that's definitely a great opportunity. Start lead coding, like Nathan mentioned. They're organized into easy, medium, and hard problems. If you guys have taken like programming fundamentals, it's definitely possible to do easy questions. You know, it might not have the most optimal solution, but at least you're getting used to solving questions and applying problem solving abilities with programming at the same time. Building your resume. So even if you haven't had any like internships or jobs yet, it's great to just have like a template set up so that whenever you do get those opportunities, it's really easy just to add them really quick. Hackathon, swamp hacks. Swamp hacks is in the spring. Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar with hackathons, definitely look into them. Different schools usually will host them, and you can compete for prizes. That's a great place to get recruited to companies for internships, and build your network. Yeah. All right. So sophomore, how many of you guys are sophomores? Any sophomores? Okay, sweet. Yeah, nice. All right. So leadership opportunities, or being a TA is great. I think that's like a great stepping stone to getting an internship. I know for my internship, kind of like my only leadership role besides like working in high school was being a tech officer at Software Engineering Club. And that's definitely something that I was able to talk about in my interview. I think if you don't have very many opportunities or like experiences or things to talk about, you're probably not going to get an interview anyway. But if you do get an interview and you don't have anything to talk about, the recruiter, it's hard to impress the recruiter. So software specific internships. This applies for freshmen as well. There's programs like Meta University, Google Step. I think Uber Star. I think Pinterest has one. Yeah. So these are freshman and sophomore specific programs. You guys, I would recommend like taking a picture. Or yeah, that'd be great. And these they only accept underclassmen. And I know a lot of people that they enter these programs and then it leads to like a regular internship afterwards. Philip, you did.
Definitely recommend. I did Google Step, and from experience, the interview process for Google Step easier than the regular software experience. So that's why I added like the lead code. We added the lead code easy for freshmen sophomores because they won't ask you like very hard questions for Google Step for you. I don't know about the other ones, but I'm assuming so because they probably assume they don't have too much experience. Maybe you haven't taken your data structure analysis course. So I know the job market's a little bit tougher these days, so I don't know if they're all open yet, but this is the name historically to look out for these opportunities.
Yeah, to add on to what Philip said, another benefit, in addition to having maybe easier questions in interviews, you're not competing with the same people as you would be for like the regular internship. So, you're not competing with, the dude at Harvard that's had like 6 internships, and he's absolutely cracked. Like you're not competing with the same caliber of people. So it's way easier to get these opportunities. So definitely look into that. Can you go back to the so lead code. So at this point, you probably will have taken data structures or going to soon. So that's definitely going to be something that can help with lead code. I know in the data structures course at UF, at least when I taught it, they kind of go over this in class. You have like weekly assignments that are basically just lead code problems, mock interviews, things like that. So you can probably start getting into mediums, I'd say, sophomore year. Passion project. That's great. So it's kind of related to hackathons. It's a great thing to talk about on your resume. If you haven't had any internships yet, because you can show that, you have passion for computer science. You identified a problem and you solved it. And people love to see that. All right. Actually, yeah, I can just go to the next one.
You don't have projects or leadership stuff on your resume because they want to see it. So that's why we're saying to start building them up for the software.
Okay, so junior year, like the slide says, it's grind time. A lot of internships will lead into full-time roles. So there's a high likelihood that wherever you intern at the summer after your junior year is going to turn into a full-time offer if you do well and impress your manager. But classes are difficult. You're probably taking like operating systems, the upper level 4,000 level computer science classes. Career fair is a great opportunity. That's coming up next week. So if you guys aren't signed up, I would definitely go and do that on like the Gator Career Link website. And just check it out. Even if you're a freshman, you haven't had any internships, you haven't really filled out your resume yet, just go anyway. It's a great experience. They're not going to remember you like, oh man, this guy was really awkward last year. We're never letting him into the company ever again. That's not going to happen. They're just going to look at your resume, ask you a couple of questions and just gets you in that and gets you in that environment. And lets you practice talking about yourself in a professional way. It's a little bit different than talking to your peers. Shotgunning your resume. So Nathan touched on this, but just apply as much as you can. I think last year I applied to 130 companies, which was like definitely a grind. I don't know if I would recommend that for everyone, but it was, it was worth it in the end because I was able to get an internship. And that's less than a 1% acceptance rate. I got 2 interviews out of that 130. So just a shotgun is like when you don't spend as much time on a single application, but you apply to way more. And then not sure the name for the other way, but the alternative is if you try really hard for certain applications. You're writing detailed cover letters, maybe changing up your resume a little bit. Oh, I have this, I want to work at this AI company. I did this machine learning project last year. I'm going to replace one of the current projects in my resume with that machine learning project. Try and specialize yourself for that company. Practicing technical interviews, behavioral interviews is great. I'm in a enterprise software engineering class right now. And I'm also in intro to software engineering class. And one of our assignments is like a mock interview. And so that's definitely something that, you don't need to be in the class to do that. You can just get one of your friends, say, hey, man, you want to hop on a Zoom call? We can do a practice interview. I'll give you a leak code question. You give me a leak code question. You can practice like talking through your programming and how you solve the problems. Referrals, rejections. Referrals. I think that's like kind of using your network. So maybe you have like a family friend or someone you've met through class, through a club, at a hackathon. Definitely leverage your network. If you know someone that's in a position to help you out, take it. Like by all means, especially right now, this application season is really tough, as was last year. So if you have any leg up, you got to use that. In terms of rejections and burnout, it's really hard to say. It's not easy, and everyone feels that way. I think that's kind of the best way to think about it. Is you're not the only one getting rejected. These companies, I think I saw something the other day. This company Citadel got like 60,000 applications, and they're trying to fill like 100 spots, which is just absolutely insane. I mean, that's like not even 1%. And so you're just a number to these companies at this point if you're getting resume rejected. So make sure you treat them like a number too. It's not all over. If you don't get an offer from every company. So senior year, maybe Philip, you want to cover this because I'm not a senior. So
yeah, sure. Hopefully at this point, if you had an internship in your junior year, you'll probably get a return offer to go back there, and maybe you can kind of just cruise through your last year, like that last point, just get drunk and enjoy college. But yeah, just continue completing projects, and if you're striving for a higher one, then yeah, keep grinding like you were doing in your junior year. So and yeah, this is definitely valid. Don't decline any interviews until you have a written offer in hand, like until you know for a fact that you have a place to go when you graduate. Then just keep up the grind, go to the career fair and all that. Like that's what I'm doing. Like I'm still waiting to hear back from my internship because certain companies take a long time. So I'm still going through the same process. I'm applying to everything. And I don't know if I did have the return offer, I don't know if I would be grinding it that as much, but yeah, that's the position I'm in. So, and I think we have one more about super seniors. So yeah, becoming a super adult. So it's pretty much the same thing, I think, as if you're a senior. So if you're in your 5th year, I have plenty of friends who have done that. So don't feel like you're alone. But yeah, pretty much just do same thing you're doing as a junior and senior. And just at this point, you really got to start. The companies are going to take you more seriously as a junior and a senior. So like you'll notice as a freshman, they'll ask you what your grade is. And then the truth is they're kind of looking for someone to hire immediately or maybe the next year. So at this point, if you're a senior, you can be, certain that you're going to get taken more seriously from these companies. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that. So I'll hand it over to Mike. We can talk about the resume.
Hi, I'm Mike. So I'm going to talk a little bit about resumes, and then also just to preface this part, the slides are going to be sent out after, so you don't have to remember any of this or take pictures or anything because we'll send everything out. So we're going to go over 3 steps here. So the general guidelines for resumes, some examples, and then the resumes channel that we have in our Discord now. So here are the general guidelines and how to make your resume stand out. So the first is simplicity. So your goal with your resume is to highlight your experience as best as you can. And the best way to do that is to keep it simple and avoid as much clutter as possible and making it as fancy, which leads to the first step, which is avoid flashy templates. So although it may look nice, you may think it makes you stand out or makes you unique. In the end, it's just going to make it harder for recruiters to skim over. It's not going to be friendly with ATS, which is applicant tracking systems, which will scan through your resume and look for keywords. Having a flashy resume is just going to make it harder for that to happen. And then also you're wasting space that you could be using to better represent yourself. If you look at those two resumes, there's a lot more information that you can put on the second resume that you're leaving off of the first one because you're trying too hard to make it fancy. And then the second tip is that you want to keep it to one page. We're all students. We don't have that much experience. You can manage to keep it to one page. There's people who are years into the industry and they don't even have a 2-page resume. You can manage to make it fit. Just make sure you're putting as much important stuff as possible on there and minimizing what you don't need or what's not important for a recruiter to see. And then also, as you can see here, recruiters don't spend more than 10 seconds per resume. So you want to make sure that you're making it as impactful as possible in as least amount of words as possible. And then also avoiding, this is kind of the same point about fancy resumes and ATS. Having it as 2 columns is just going to make it harder for ATS to scan. It's going to make it harder for recruiters to scan. And overall, it's just not necessary. And then on this note too, same with color. I think a little bit of color is fine if you want to have headings that are like blue or something, that's fine. But something like this where it just makes it a lot harder to read, a lot harder to scan, there's just no point in it. And the guideline 2 is about the layout of your resume. So the sections, you're going to have a header with your name, your contact information. You're going to have an education, which in our case, since we're still students, should be at the top because that's the most important. You want to show that you're still in school, that you're a student. Then comes your employment, any of your work experience. It could be club experience. It could be leadership. It could be TAing. It could be research. That all counts as part of experience. Then you have personal projects, and then you'll have your skills. So your header, you want to have your name in bold up at the top. You want to make that very clear and very easy to find. Then have your phone number, your email, a GitHub if you have one, which you really should have one, that at least shows that you're actively coding and actively making projects. If you have a good GitHub, if you have projects to showcase, it makes it all the better. And then you should also definitely make a LinkedIn. It's definitely a good resource to have, and recruiters can potentially reach out to you. And then if you have a portfolio, or you can also put a location on there too, but that's kind of optional. I wouldn't really recommend an address because that's not really necessary, but it's not a bad idea to have a location so they know like where you're based out of.
Yeah. Come across if they had a bunch of projects, it's really impressive to show the person's working with stuff outside of school. And so if you do like an empty GitHub, it's going to make it doesn't really go too good to deal with that depending on the project you have on your GitHub.
And then this is also a tip about LinkedIn. So as you can see here, there's a button up at the top of the LinkedIn profile that you can use to customize your URL. So instead of having it be some random letters and number that make it a lot less nice on a resume, you can customize it and have it something like, in this case, like linkedin.com/in/ and then like your name, first name _ last name. So something like that looks a lot nicer and makes it look like you actually care about your LinkedIn profile and your image. So then your education. So in our case, we'd all put University of Florida. If you have any other previous colleges that you've been at, you can put that too. You probably don't need to put your high school. That's not really relevant anymore and just taking up space that you could be using for anything else. Then you have the location of the school. You have your dates of enrollment, and make sure to put your graduation date on there too. That's one of the most important things. They need to see that, and you could get automatically just discounted because you don't have your graduation date on there and they don't know when you're graduating. Your major, any relevant coursework is good to put on there too. It doesn't necessarily need to be everything you've done, but anything that's relevant or anything that would look good getting picked up by ATS or something like data structures or software engineering, that's always good stuff to have. In terms of your GPA, most of the time, if a recruiter doesn't see that on there, they're probably going to assume it's low. So if you have anything above a 3, that's fine to put on there, and that's going to pass most requirements that companies have. So as long as it's above a 3, you should put it on there.
I think at one point in my resume, I had like spring and fall.
So then your experience. So this is one of the most important, obviously the most important section on here. So any past software related employment, it can be internships, it could be TA, it could be research, any club projects or leadership that you're a part of is great too. You want to format it in a way, it obviously doesn't have to be formatted exactly like that, but you want the title, you want the company, you want your dates of employment, and then a description. So your description is like kind of the most important part here. You want to try to quantify as much as possible and express impact, right? Because a lot of the time it's going to be a recruiter looking at this first, and they're not going to know necessarily what it means that you like implemented this thing into AWS using Node.js, right? So instead of putting that, put the impact, put how it made a difference in the company. If you can quantify that, even better, but it's more important that you have some kind of impact there. So in your projects, so you should definitely start working on projects if you haven't. It can even be something from YouTube, just having anything that it shows that you've gone out and you've learned on your own and you're determined to learn and to have different technologies. So you list your projects. You should have your technologies. If you want to, you can put them like next to where the name of the project is too. That's what I do. And then similar to experience, use the XYZ formula to highlight the skills, any impact the projects have. If it has any users, that's even better. If it's deployed, you can mention that. Just anything to make it as impressive as possible. So this is like a example of how the XYZ formula works. So if you look at those examples, you can see that obviously the first one, like it works, it expresses something, but it doesn't really explain much. And you want to make it sound as impressive as possible, even if it's really not, because this is your only time to really show the recruiter what you've done, and you want it to be stand out as much as possible. So then your skills. So obviously your programming languages you want to have in there. You can split it into any sections however you want. But programming languages, any common tool, something like Git or Unity or any kind of software you've used. Frameworks, React, Express, Flask, Django, anything that even if you've only really used it for a smaller project, you want to be proficient enough in it that you could potentially answer some basic question about it, but it doesn't have to be something that you're an expert at. It can be something that you've just had played around with or had some introduction to in a class or something. And then you have databases, anything like that you had. And then also, it's not a bad idea if you see job descriptions that specifically highlight skills. It's not a bad idea to move that to the front and make sure those are on your resume, because ATS is potentially going to scan for those words. So it's important that you have that as part of your resume if you do know the language or framework of whatever it's referencing. So next, we're going to talk about keywords. I think this is just like one slide. So this kind of just goes back to how ATS is looking for keywords. And the majority of applications are going to get rejected by ATS because they're not going to read through, you're not going to have a team of 4 recruiters that reads through thousands of applications, which is unfortunately what most of the job postings get these days. So you have to maximize your chances of not getting rejected by putting keywords in there and making your resume as ATS friendly as possible.
Yeah, so like one thing.
So I guess the job posting is what I mentioned. Yeah. So then here's some examples of what's worked for us in the past. So this is Emily Kelsey's resume, and she was our president last fall. She's currently at Microsoft. And you can kind of see here how she has it laid out. She keeps it very simple. It just kind of tells you exactly what you need to know. She has her education up at the top with all of her contact information. She has her work experience. She has her involvement, which is also something you can have as a separate section if you want. That's kind of up to how you want to do it. And then she has a project at the bottom. You guys don't have to take a picture of this or anything because the slides will be posted if you want to come back to it. And then this is CJ's resume and then my resume. You can tell it's kind of just, they look simplistic, but that's the goal here, because you want to make it as easy as possible for recruiters to scan and get the information that they need, while also making yourself as impressive as possible. And then Philip, you want to talk about your resume here?
I give the same. One of the best is what I think helped me get my first internship. And this is what helped me get into STEP for like going to practice software and trying to get under classes. We can take a look at this later.
Yeah, so, but in the end, obviously, this is a lot of information that we've given you, but you just have to take a deep breath and take it one step at a time. It's hard for everyone, and in the end, you're going to probably face a lot of rejection, but just stay determined. And if you're doing everything right and everything that you can do, you'll end up somewhere you'll be happy with.
When I was trying to get my first internship, like it was very late in here, like most people probably maybe would have given up at this point, but I'm still able to land one. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to like send me through the email if you could take something like this, you just fit it to whatever your recruiter is, however you talk to them. So it's another. And also like some never too late in my get very happy.
And then in terms of the resume channel, so previously when we did this last year, I think we kind of like went around and tried to like look at people's resumes one-on-one, but it's really hard, especially with this many people. So what we did is now in the Discord, we have a resumes channel where you can go in there, you can post your resume, and then we can create a thread on it and give you advice. We can give you tips. You can kind of conversate with us and ask questions, and we'll give you feedback about it. Oh, and then also I added like a bonus slide here for tips for the career fair, if any of you are going. So your elevator pitch is extremely important. So what's going to happen is you're going to go in there, you're going to go up to a recruiter, and ideally in 1 minute or less, you're going to need to kind of give a like about me for yourself. And your goal is to make yourself stand out as much as possible, similar to the resume. So first step is have your resume ready to hand over. That's probably what they're going to ask for. First, they're going to want to see your resume. And even while you're talking to them, they'll want to read it over so they can kind of follow along with what you're saying. Then you want to do some basic research about the company beforehand. It's a good idea to have at least know what the company is. You don't want to walk up to them and just not even know what kind of company it is. You don't have to know a lot about them or have used their product before if it's some kind of product-based company, but just having an idea about them, maybe looking at their values and trying to connect that to your experience is a good idea as well. And then practicing it obviously helps a lot, practicing out loud or to a friend if they're willing to listen to it. And then in terms of the structure of the pitch, having your name, major, graduation date is important because you obviously need to tell them. And if you don't tell them that, they're going to end up asking for it. So you want to tell them as much as you can in that initial pitch so they don't have to like ask for it after. And then go over your experience, your projects, any extracurriculars you have, kind of give a walkthrough of your resume in that 1 minute. But then don't talk for too long. I have a friend that would talk for 3 minutes and then have no time to actually talk to the recruiter afterwards. So you want to make sure you just give them a brief overview of yourself and your resume, and then you can have a nice conversation with them. And then also you're most likely talking to a recruiter, so don't get too technical. It's okay to mention keywords like a recruiter should know what like React is or a programming language, but you want to keep it about, you know, you and the impact that your projects have had on like a broader scope. And then be confident because that's the most important part.
Yeah, I wanted to share this as well with people that I found useful for recoding. I've also had other people recommend me called Grind 75. So there's a famous set of legal questions called Grind 75. And this is kind of, I don't know if it's the same creator, but yeah, tailored like 75 core questions that all those questions you could be good for most interview situations. And I like this tool because you can yeah, people can hear. So yeah, for anyone on Zoom, in case you didn't hear, this is just a good tool for like leak coding because you can toggle the weeks and the hours per week, and you can toggle if you want to do mediums or easies or hard. And then yeah, it gives you this very nice calculator. And then these all link to leak code questions. So yeah, I just thought I'd throw this on here because I've been using it for a while and I really like it. So I recommend. Yeah, there's a lot of resources. It's just like this is one that I happen to use. So definitely do your own research, but there's so many good tools out there. And yeah, I think that's everything. So yeah, you can reach us here and then I don't know if you guys have any more questions. So if you want to stick around, yeah. So yeah. That just links to my website. So we're gonna have a personal portfolio website workshop later this semester. So I saw it on someone else's resume. I think it was at like the same event that I went to here. And so if you scan it, it just takes you to my website. So cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question because sometimes it's really hard to do that.
I'd say just try to do your best to estimate it because that's kind of what everybody else does. And just try not to like make sure you're able to back it up if you're asked about it. Like explain kind of how you got to that number. It can be like, oh, I ran this simulation where I tested how long it would have taken to do this, and then I tested how long it took to do after I implemented this thing, and that's the percentage increase in speed that it was. So something like that. And then also you can quantify if you've like analyzed sets of data, like how many things you went through. Like I analyzed this many sets of data or something like that.
I wish I'd done this for my first internship because the third one was need to make sure that have something that meets this one of going into it, I don't know anything about it. Helping us to create something that has actually really good experience. So you can see like given that you could probably find some way to see the number in there, but sometimes it's hard because you can't.
You can show mine and CJ's too, because we kind of have, I think we both have some numbers on there.
Yeah, like nice hard. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, just try to put anything you can. I mean, any sort of projects that you can do. Your goal is just to, I guess, minimize the white space on it and just put as much like useful information about it as possible. Anything from you, like you can even put like your classes on there and like list bullet points under that of what you've done in the class. That's a good idea. I've seen people do. Yep. I mean, I'd say really anything. I mean, it can be something even simple from like a YouTube tutorial. I just say like, just start with, if you have like no projects, just start and just put something basic on there. And as you get better projects, kind of just remove the ones that are more, like less meaningful and more from tutorials, and then add ones that you get that are significant. And a lot of the classes here, you'll do a lot of projects that are unique from other people's projects. We did one in data structures and software engineering. You'll do projects that'll be very good for your resume because they'll be something that nobody else has done. And they'll have a lot of good technologies too. So stuff like that'll be good.
Yeah, but like going to club workshop, if you go to a workshop, you're probably going to do the project. That one. Or you go watch like a YouTube video and the tutorial and you have the project. So if you need to put stuff on there quickly, you can some idea that you can kind of start building it up quickly. And yeah, if not, you can always go back to the school work you have to be done. So yeah. When in doubt, when you go to do. Yeah. You're like actual stuff. I know I got a good one for my freshman year and everyone knew it was probably I really had this class. And sophomore year was a lot better, but my sophomore year was I think that hell is so like how did you say what percentage of those people were voting before they got to college or yeah, if I think it is very feasible. I think like from the people that I met, I don't know. I don't remember meeting someone who was like, "Oh, this guy's or this girl is a total prodigy." Like they were also very insecure about them even landing the internship. Like when I got in, I was thinking to myself, like, "Dang, do I deserve to be here?" But then I was talking to them, and I realized they're also like pretty insecure, like that they even got there in the first place. So, I don't know. I didn't meet anyone that, like, to answer your question, I didn't meet anyone that I was like, "Dang, I'm never gonna reach that level." So if they were there, I just hadn't been able to meet them. And I met a lot of UF students there as well, and they were all, I don't know, they all seem to be like on my same level as well. So I think for the most part, people, you're probably closer to the average. If there's someone who's crazy prodigy, then they're probably at some quant firm. and those are like impossible to get into sometimes. So I've heard stories about some quant firms that like they don't even accept applications, like they will find you. So like, you know, yeah, exactly. Who wants to build trading algorithms and make millions of dollars? Okay, yeah, question. The question is what font, and we're saying 10. Yeah, probably 10 is like you're getting too small. They're close to that. You probably don't want to get smaller than that, but I don't think you want to be bigger than 12. Yeah, then it starts to look like, yeah. Yeah. Cool. Yes. Yeah. So I think our next workshop is going to be, well, intro to development. So that one is going to that one's not as much of like a project workshop, but actually you'll leave that workshop with at least,
Yeah, so I don't know how well you guys can hear me, but we're having an intro to development workshop in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from now, where we're gonna go over really basic stuff like Node and Git, and really we want to get you on your feet because I came into UF with no software engineering experience, and we want to get you to a point where you can kind of start to make your own web applications, that sort of stuff, and you don't kind of really need to rely on tutorials and stuff like that, so you can start to branch out. But I think also the workshop after that is a personal portfolio workshop, if I'm not mistaken. So that is like a concrete project that will be individualized that you could put on your resume, and we'll also kind of develop from those skills from the intro to development workshop. So
as a project. So it's pretty good because you can use it as building your resume, and then you also have a new project to
And since I have the mic now, I just want to say, if you're a freshman and you're worried about not having anything on your resume at this point, and you need to have this whole like huge resume with 9-point font, like it's easier than it seems, because I came in with nothing. Like it was a blank slate for me. And really, like, the number one tip I can give you is get involved in clubs, look for opportunities, and take them. I hate to plug it here. Actually, no, I don't. I'd love to plug it here. The Club Affinity Dev team, right? I just applied to it like out of the blue. I didn't know any of the skills that were like really expected for it, but we have this huge, really cool training program, and I really went out of that my first semester like being like, okay, I'm a software dev now. Like, how cool is that? And by the end of my spring semester, I actually was able to like develop my own like mobile app and like publish it to the app Google Play Store. So there's really like so much you can learn, and you're in the position to learn. So take advantage of those opportunities. And I think workshops like this give you those opportunities. So definitely chase them. It's not as bad as you might think.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. Like when I came in, I also didn't have anything. And then all of a sudden I had a lot of stuff on my resume. So just keep chipping away at it. Like don't stress because you'll get there, even if it looks stressful right now. So that's not, it's not that scary. Cool. But yeah. Vim. You're saying- Yeah. Yeah.
So I think most CS resumes, like the main thing I've seen is something called Jake's resume. I think it's called. It's a template, and that's also a latex written like template. Yeah, if you want, and yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. And what I use to edit that is just this program called Overleaf, and it's pretty intuitive. Uh, and even though it is like latex, it's really not that difficult to just pick up. You can just copy that, put in your info, and it's a really professional, simple template for you to use. So
Yeah, I think that's a good option as well. I mean, depends if you want to do research, then yeah, for sure, definitely. But if you're just looking for things, I think as a freshman, you want to check out everything that the school has to offer, go to as many clubs as you can, maybe at least look into it, and then see. So like, don't just commit to one thing because it's the first thing you found. But that is another place to go looking. Yeah. So, research opportunity or a club, like member tech officer at a club or something. So that is another good option, because you have limited time. You can't like do all of these things. But yeah, so I guess my answer would be like that's a good idea. So it's a good option. It opens up at some point. I can look back and see when I applied. I don't think it's open yet. I think I looked last time and I don't think it was open yet, but oh,
I think freshman. I think freshman is open to us in November. I guess next.
oh, you want to come here? You can look.
But we showed that website levels.fyi earlier. But another good place to find a bunch of like aggregated internship opportunities for computer science is this subreddit, or I mean not subreddit. What am I saying? This GitHub. And this yeah, and it just kind of like has links to everywhere. Position, location, company, application. And they do this like annually, but this year they teamed up with this company called Simplify. So you can kind of automate shotgunning your resume. So it definitely fills out a lot of key information on the application and makes it go a lot faster. So definitely look into this if you're interested in shotgunning your resume.
Yeah, I think we have this linked on our website as well, on ufscc.org. So definitely, and there's other ones for like regular software engineering internships. So it's not just for those underclassmen ones. I think we have it here. Is this the same one? Yeah. Okay. So you can go to our website. It's linked there. Cool. I think there was a question in the back. Oh no. Okay. Cool. But yeah, we'll stick around if you guys have more questions. But yeah, thanks for coming. And we'll share this after, and we'll share the recording. So thank you guys. Nice. Stop the recording.